Morning, everybody. This is Bill with NotaryCoach.com. It is bright and early this morning, and I've just wrapped up with a signing and already been back to the title office to drop them off even 15 minutes before they open. If you can catch one theme from my videos, it's that you can really carve out a nice niche for yourself by being available for bizarre signing times. If you can do signings at 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, then you will set yourself apart because most signing agents will not do that. Also, that works for the very late evenings as well. So I highly recommend it. It's worked out really well for me. Today, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about cash to close and how to manage those the fat checks that you might see at a closing. Obviously, for these types of real estate transactions, it's a higher ticket item. So you'll oftentimes find yourself in possession of checks anywhere from $500 to $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. I've had one for $750,000 to pay cash for a home once. So those are big checks. That's a lot of responsibility on you. So there's a few key things that you want to always keep in mind. Now you're going to find the cash to close total amount on both the settlement statement and on the closing disclosure. Those are typically the two first documents that you're going to review during the signing process. So you'll go through there, and when you come to that dollar figure, you'll just literally ask them, all right, so that's $493,000. Did you have a cashier's check or have you wired those funds? That's the key question there. Now, this is not going to be a shock. It's not a surprise to them. They've already gone over these figures with their escrow officer and with their loan officer if everybody's able to do their job correctly. So they'll either have that check for you or they'll just let you know that they wired the funds. Now, every title company kind of has their own policies on how they accept funds. Typically, anything that's required or due under $500 can be given by personal check. That's not across the board, so you definitely want to just check in with your escrow officer and find out what their policies are. A lot of title companies actually give you a list of instructions that just say, here's our rules. Less than $500 personal check. Anything from $500 to $5,000 can be a cashier's check. Anything over $5,000 needs to be wired over. That can be a general rule. Now, however, on new home purchases, that's not always the case. I have, like I said, I've had a cashier's check for $750,000. It might be $400,000. It might be $501. It just kind of depends on the policy and the style of the person buying the home. Now, keep in mind when you're taking these funds that the type of check, who it's made out to, and where it's coming from is extremely important in a real estate transaction. They have to be able to track funds. So it's very important that any check that you accept, number one, be guaranteed funds. So it has to be a cashier's check. If they have funds from a credit union, oftentimes you'll see an official check instead of a cashier's check. To a credit union, that's exactly the same thing. To some title companies, it is not. So it's very important to make sure that your title company will accept an official check instead of a cashier's check. Some of them do, some of them do not. So just be looking for that. The other important thing is that that check has to be made out to the right person. So you want to make sure that it is made out. It's typically going to be to the title company or to the attorney if you're in an attorney state that's closing that transaction. That's extremely important. Some people assume it's to the lender or to the builder if they're building a new home, and that is not correct. Now keep in mind that all of these borrowers get repeated communication about who to make the check out to, but it doesn't always convey correctly, and it's a high stress time in their lives. They don't get a chance to read everything, so there can be mistakes there. The other huge one is that these funds have to come from the borrower's account unless they've got lender approval for something else. But 9 times out of 10, that account, even on the cashier's check, it has to come from the borrower's own personal account. So it will tell you there, it'll have the borrower's name. You'll run into sometimes where parents are helping out kids, or there might be a power of attorney because somebody's out of the country, so they just do it out of their account and then the borrower wires it over. All of that's kind of funny money, and it's not typically okay. So you've got to make sure that the funds are coming from the borrower. And then there's another reverse situation here, sometimes even in purchase transactions, but a lot of times in refinances where the borrower is going to get money back. In that case, there's usually a form included in the loan package where they can specify how they want to receive that money. They can wire it right into their checking account. They can have a check mailed to them or overnighted via FedEx or UPS, or the title company can hold a check for the borrower to pick up. They can make that selection relatively easy on there. If they do so, if they want the funds wired, there's usually a place that says, please attach a voided check here. You can attach a voided check using a stapler, tape, or even a clip sometimes. So that's something you want to add to your notary kit in your car is tape or a stapler so you can take care of those things. The ultimate thing to remember is these funds are extremely important to the real estate transaction, and if there's any mistakes or errors on those, that can hold the funding for the transaction, and it will definitely affect your borrower. So you want to stay present and know exactly what you're doing there. All right, guys, that's it for me today. I hope you have a great weekend. I'll talk to you soon.